Guy.
Hello, everyone out there. Welcome to the first ever Real to Ideal podcast. My name is Molly Fagan. I'm the founder of the Real to Ideal movement for revolutionary leaders and thought leaders and world-changing businesses. And my guest today is Fiona Tate, who is the founder of the Women Without Children Loving the World movement. Fiona, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and your business.
Hi, well, thank you, Molly. Yes, I'm Fiona Tate, sometimes known as Countess Drusilla Steele, but we can talk about a little bit about her later. I'm a mentor and guide for women who are childless, not by choice. And I'm a wordcaster as well, so my other business is freelance writing.
Nice.
As far as the Women Without Children Loving the World business goes, that's what's at the moment being termed as my Valtie business, which is a word that I made up. Money to love this because I love making words. Words are fabulous. The word Valtie, V-A-L-T-I-E, means valued auntie, with a touch of Valkyrie thrown in there. And that's part of what I do as well. I like to, as in my role as a mentor and guide for women who are childless, not by choice, I like to get word out there. I feel like I'm on a crusade to make other people aware of just how fabulous we are.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I love that. I love that. And hello, Erica. Thank you so much for tuning in live. We're so happy to have you here. Oh boy, I have so many questions, Fiona. And before we dive further into that, I just want to point out to the world how magical this combination is. You are a wordcaster. You've always been a writer, an author, a proofreader, a copywriter. And so words are really like your I want to say like your food. Like you eat, breathe, sleep, and live words.
Absolutely.
And so then when we got together, when I first met you and we started to dive into your true why, like what is it that lights you up about writing? What is it that lights you up about your proofreading and copywriting business at that time? You discovered your why was women without children, based on your own experiences and what you were going through at the time and how you wanted to help other women, leave a legacy even without having children to carry that legacy on for them. And so I think it's so amazing and so unique that here's someone who, is such a talented wordsmith, a wordcaster, as you call it, coming to a world where we didn't really have a valuable word to describe women without children without calling them something less than other women. It's you're childless, you're women without children. And then I know when we were first playing around with the idea of coining a new term, because I agree, as a woman without children, I also was not pleased with the fact that I can be called a woman without something, or I could be called an adult. I was like, well, even moms can be called an adult. That doesn't really distinguish us from other adults. And so there was no word in the English language anyway that describes women who don't have children, but are not missing something, not, non-moms, childless, women without children and stuff like that. And so here is one of the few women on the planet whose specialty is words and who is, forwarding the movement for women without children, and bringing that combination together made you uniquely qualified for creating the word that would go forth and empower women without children, to emphasize that we are valued in society, that just because we don't have children, whether it's by choice or by circumstance, just because we don't have children doesn't mean we don't have love to give, doesn't mean that we don't have passions to pour into something, and doesn't mean that we don't want to leave a legacy. I'm the last of my line. I have no brothers and sisters. There's no one to carry on the DNA of my family once I die, and I'm not going to have children. I mean, it was part circumstance, part choice. I didn't want to have a child in the lifestyle that I had. I didn't have the right man. I didn't want to raise a child by myself. And all of these things came together too late in life for me to biologically have children. And so I love the idea that I can still leave a legacy, even though life didn't work out for me to leave a genetic legacy. And so for you and for everyone watching, it's like, that's the real power here, is like each one of us is uniquely qualified to do something really special in the world. For Fiona, it was like bringing together this skills with words and her passion for women without children and creating this word Valtie, which emphasizes value, Valkyrie. Oh, love that word, Valkyrie. Like, that's a movement making word right there. and auntie, because that's really it, is like, it's not that we don't like children. You know, we're perfectly great at being a role model and a mentor to children. We just couldn't have them for whatever reason.
And it's completely ridiculous that there isn't a word for it until now, because we're a growing number. It's something like I think we're just below half of the women in the world are childless, whether that's childless by choice or by circumstance or by medical kind of conditions. So we're a growing number of women. Why are we not being heard more than one? And particularly at the moment, I mean, we've discussed this before. It's an exciting time to be a woman right now with the progress that's being made. And I just heard this morning that Bill Cosby's been convicted.
Mm-hmm.
And for women. So it's just, we're at a time where women are being heard, and we're not having to, you know, create a riot or, you know, chain ourselves to fences or burn our bras publicly. We are standing up and very quietly saying, this is my story, I have something important to say, and this is what it is. And I really firmly believe that women who are childless, particularly not by choice, have a special set of skills. They have a massive amount of resilience. Their survival instincts are huge, or they wouldn't have made it this far. There's a very huge strength and power in them that the rest of the world needs to know about. That the next generation of women coming up need to know about. You know, the next 15-year-old girl that comes along and thinks, I don't want to live like that. She should be able to not say it like that. She should be able to say, I don't want to live like that. This is how I'm going to do it.
Yes.
And that's part of what is our role as Valties.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And I love that you're still connecting that this is about the next generation. Even if it's not our children, we're going to, through our businesses, through our books, through our writing, through our passion projects, we're going to inspire and be role models for that 16-year-old girl who says, yeah, I want to be a different kind of woman than the choices we may have had 100 years ago. And I think that's part of this creating a word for it. Is like, up until maybe 100 years ago, women were expected to have children because we needed the population to survive. As a planet, there were just less people on the planet. And so to keep humanity alive, you know, it was expected that women needed to have children. Men could have as many children as they wanted, but women were the limiting factor, right? It was like a woman can only have one baby at a time. Men can have 10 babies at a time if they want to. But these days we have an overpopulation problem. And so we need to start emphasizing the value on women who didn't have children as well, at least equally so. You know, like for those who made the choice and said, no, you know what, I think there's already enough people on the planet, I don't need to add to that, and to like have strength in that choice. Because I think that for me, that's where the power is in what you do, even though for me it wasn't completely by circumstance. It was that I didn't want to have a child in this situation. And I would love the idea that 16-year-old girls can make that choice and say, my life is not the kind of life I want to bring a baby into just yet. And then here, let me bring Erica into this conversation too, because Erica says she actually had a woman argue with her that I shouldn't give up on having children, even though she's 46 and don't have a uterus. Please, Fiona, I know you have something to say about that.
That's insane. I mean, that's just ridiculous, isn't it? And this is the kind of attitudes that we have to deal with every day. It's when people say stupid statements like that, you know, and you feel like you have to either defend yourself. You know what? You don't have to defend yourself. And really, there is no reason why you can't just laugh at her and say, you silly woman, you don't know what you're talking about. Because this is another part of my crusade, see, I'm getting all fired up now. Another part of my crusade is particularly in the language that we use to speak to each other and about each other. There is nobody that can make you feel as bad as another woman. And really, if you asked any woman, there are very few women in the world who would say, you know, I like to put people down. They don't. People want to help others. Women want to help others to bring themselves up, to feel good about themselves, to look after themselves. And yet we still say things like, oh, it'll happen. Just relax. Nonsense. Absolute nonsense. And they need to be called out on the nonsense, I'm afraid. It's time that language stopped. It really, really, truly is. One of the problems, another underlying reason for my crusade and my whole Valtie thing is mental health. I've worked in mental health the last 25 years, and I have a long-standing history of depression. So it's another one of my passions. What kind of a world would we have if there wasn't nearly 3/4 of us coping with depression and anxiety? Okay? And part of that comes from things like stupid statements like, just wait, it'll happen. Even though you're 46, don't give up. Nonsense.
It could still work out.
Nonsense.
You might still meet the right man. Your biological clock is still ticking.
Very, very frustrating. I feel your pain, Erica. I really do.
So Fiona, for any woman who hasn't necessarily given up on having children, but is, you know, not going to have children, whether by choice or by circumstance, but for example, doesn't have a uterus, so there's no chance, or, you know, it's too late in life and, you know, not willing to risk it, that kind of thing. So for all the women out there who aren't going to have children, they're very certain they're not going to have children, tell me you have a resource for those conversations.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There are some organisations out there. Jodie Day in particular is well known in the UK, and she is fabulous at what she does. Melanie Notkin is another woman who's quite prominent in the field. The thing that I found about those women, and this is the thing that I struggled with when I was looking for mentors and women to help me with my childless journey, was I couldn't really relate to those people. Both of those women, and I'm not putting them down when I'm saying this because I think they're marvellous, but both of those women have careers. They have, you know, they're both national speakers. I mean, both of them have done their TED Talks, all those kind of things. Whereas there didn't seem to be anybody who would, it's just like the lady next door. You know, there wasn't somebody who could talk, who I felt I could relate to in regards to my childlessness. There wasn't somebody who tells it like it is, who doesn't like to pretty it up. And what I did when it came to my journey, what saved me was when I started to write my book. And I started to write a novel, which helped me to work through all those emotions and all those feelings that I was coping with when I finally accepted that I wasn't going to be a mother. So in starting that and then continuing that novel, which is now turning into a trilogy, and I've got the stars in my head who are going to play them when they turn them into movies.
Nice.
I found this passion and a reason to get out of bed in the morning, and something that took me out of that grief. Didn't ignore the grief. It didn't lose the grief. It didn't try and cover it up. I brought the grief with me, but I've channeled it into something else. And at some stage along there, it occurred to me that if that worked for me, then there's hundreds of women out there that that's going to work for as well. When you're in that place where you're still grieving, and you're grieving for something that technically never was. So it's not even that you can get acknowledgement in that grief, because people think it's nothing. So when you're doing that and you're trying to decide, and for me it was a conscious decision, I decided whether I either just gave up and rolled with the grief, let it take me where I end up, or I would stand up and make something of my life, something to leave behind, a legacy. For me, it was a conscious decision. For others, it may not be. But that's basically what happens. That's the start of the process. Once you do that, once you decide, okay, what's next? What can I do? That's when you have to really make a determined effort and get into it. So that's when I developed my Passion and Purpose program, which I sell online. And what that does is it takes you through the process of reconnecting with things that you used to love. And it takes you back. You know, when you're working through this program, you're not looking for something to fill in your time. You're not looking for something to keep you busy. You're looking for a passion. Okay?
Ooh, I like
because
that.
we have just as much right to love something as much, if not more, than ourselves as anybody else. But we have to look a little bit harder to find it because we've had this huge loss. Okay. Did that answer your question, Molly, or did I wander off again?
No, that does answer my question. But I have so many more questions too. So, in a nutshell, yes, Fiona has a fabulous program for any woman who is childless by circumstance and wants to find that passion, or even childless by choice and hasn't yet found that passion. Like for me, it's definitely my business. Thank goodness I found my business, or thank goodness I started my business, because I have been pouring my time and energy and passion into it as if it were a child. I mean, it takes up just as much time and attention sometimes as a toddler, right? And we have to nurture it. And it takes a village to raise a business. It's not something we can do on our own and that kind of thing. So I can definitely vouch for, like, when you find that. And for me, my business is my legacy. So what I'm doing right now is trying to change the world, and I'm trying to support the businesses that are going to go forth and change the world. Businesses like yours, Fiona, where, you know, you're revolutionizing not only the language that we're using to relate to each other and to talk to each other, and how we label women without children, but also the fact that you're going to really shift a lot of mental illness in the world, shift a lot of depression and anxiety, and help those women find joy and passion and stuff like that. So very world-changing stuff. However,
you eradicate things like depression and anxiety by not allowing people to get that way in the first place.
Yeah.
And the way to do that is to give them power right from from birth. You mean something. Whatever choices, whatever happens to you, whatever doesn't, you mean something. That's what
Yes.
And that's what this world desperately needs right now.
Yes, completely agree. And so now this is going to be a loaded question, and then I want to go back to some of the comments we're getting. This is a loaded question. So for conversations like the one that Erica's having, and let's actually just bring up Erica's next comment. And yes, I could adopt, you know, she's saying, like, to the women who are like, oh, don't worry, there's still time for you. And yes, I could adopt, but then there is the issue of my disability that makes lifting a 5-pound bag of sugar difficult. What the heck would I do with a baby? I enjoy my role as an aunt and Gigi. And so for the people in Erica's life and my life and your life and loads of other women's life, especially family members who mean well, who don't realize they're sticking their foot in their mouth, who don't realize how painful it is to have these conversations over and over again and be like, no, I'm really not going to have kids. It's not still in the cards for me. Do you have something to help them with those conversations? And this is a loaded question because I happen to know you have a PDF and I'm in love with your PDF. I just want you to describe it because now we're introducing Countess Drusilla Steele into the conversation. And I'm just fascinated by her.
The lovely Countess. I do have a PDF that has answers to a lot of the common questions that we get. And the PDF is, 2 people have answered it, basically. Fiona has answered it, and Countess Drusilla Steele has answered it. Now, Countess Drusilla Steele was somebody I kind of invented, I think, mainly when I started working with Molly in her mastermind. Things developed quite quickly for me. And I, as far as my business went, as I think Molly said, I was a proofreader and editor. scrap that, didn't fire me up. It was a means to an end. So working through that mastermind with Molly, I developed my passion business as opposed to my novel writing, which was my passion. And along that way, Countess Drusilla appeared on that journey. Now, Countess Drusilla is the one who does not give a shit. She really doesn't. So in the PDF that gives you the answers to what to say to people, we have Fiona answering for the people who say things like, oh, you'll be fine, dear, it'll happen for you. From, you know, great Auntie Betty, who doesn't mean any harm. So you don't really want to offend her, you just want the conversation to stop. So Fiona has a nice answer like, okay, thank you, something like that. Countess Drusilla, however, will say, no, it's not, and why are you insisting it should happen? Countess Drusilla is the one who just says it like it is. She doesn't care. She's not nasty. She's not nasty, but she's pretty blunt. She's pretty blunt. Yeah. And she's who I drag out. Oh, no, I don't drag her out, actually. She appears quite easily nowadays. She's who comes out when I need to be strong, when I need to be tough, and when I need to make a point. And this is something that I feel with childless women in this circumstances as well. I mean, when somebody says something like that to us, like let's take the, why don't you just adopt? There's so many reasons why you can't just go out and adopt. So
it's
many.
Not like adopting a puppy, right?
That's right. That's right. There's money, there's conditions, there's physical stuff, there's just crazy. But people say that often because they're embarrassed. Once they've started the conversation, do you have children? No, I don't. Why didn't you just adopt? They're covering up their own embarrassment. They don't know what to say. So they say the first thing that comes out of their mouth, and that's it. Okay? So if you don't want to offend them, you can do a couple of things. You can launch into a discussion about why adoption isn't possible. The other person will probably get bored very quickly and the conversation will end. Or you can quietly say, no, that's not an option for me. Ask them a question, deflect it, send it back to them, change the subject altogether. Or you can do what Countess Drusilla would say, and that is, oh, have you got a few thousand you can lend me? And I'll just go and get one of these kids from overseas. I feel very much that accepted conversation is things like, do you have children? In actual fact, that's a very, very personal question. Yeah. For the people and for this world that we're living in today, it's a very personal question. And I don't think it should be polite conversation. I don't think it should be the same as saying, how are you? What do you do for a living? I don't think it should be. I think it needs to stop. And the way to do that is how we have to educate other people about that. There's no reason why you can't say, depending on who it is, do you realise that that question is insensitive? Give it back to them, see what happens.
And again, it's outdated. It's outdated because, like, in the past, the answer would have most of the time been, yes, I have children and I love talking about them. Here, let me show you some pictures of them. And so it was an easy conversation breaker, easy icebreaker, easy conversation piece and that kind of thing. But in this day and age, you're right. It is insensitive because you just don't know what that person's situation is. And we're getting into an increasingly vulnerable situation with, like, you know, most people don't want to talk about their kids because of privacy. So, like, there's plenty of people who online, if you say, do you have kids? Well, maybe I do, maybe I don't. I don't want to say online because that's my private life and that kind of thing. And so it should be increasingly more of a private, privacy thing where it's like, that is insensitive. That shouldn't be something that you just talk about casually in conversation. But again, it's like they mean well. They're just trying to break the ice, but it is becoming more and more outdated. The more privacy is a concern, and the more women who don't have children and can't have children, and that becomes insensitive. So just to double check, you have a PDF that has a list of these questions and how to respond to them in 2 different voices?
Absolutely. So go to countessdrusillasteele.com and it's right there on the front page, I think. You can just go in and click on it and the PDF will be sent to you. Send me your comments. Let me know what you think of it. If you've got, because I'm always looking for more statements, more stock answers to give back. So let me know what you think of it.
Nice.
Send me an email, okay?
Nice.
Either through the site, or you can get me at countessdrew@gmail.com. Love to hear from you.
We'll definitely drop links to that in the comments. So after this is over, I'll go back and drop a comment, or Fiona can go back and drop a comment in the to give you a direct link, so it's easier to click on. Let's see here. So to bring up a few more comments, so we can turn this into a conversation, or a widespread discussion. Jennifer says, "Hi, ladies. I'm child-free by choice, but want to better understand where you're coming from, Fiona." Awesome. I think this conversation is doing that.
That's the woman. That's the response. That's the questions we should be getting from women. Tell me about that. If you're happy to tell me about that, tell me about that. People assume, and you will understand this, I would imagine, Jennifer, because if you're childless by choice, people assume that you're cold, you're building a business, you're, I don't know, whatever. And that's the thing. We're similar in the fact that we don't have children. It's just the reason we don't have children that's different. And we need to, that's right, we need to ask questions of each other, we need to understand each other more, and we need to build each other up more. So thank you for being here, Jennifer. That's important.
Yeah. And then Jennifer also says, "My purpose is my business too." And yes, Jennifer and I have a lot in common in that sense, where we have really poured our energies and our efforts into our business. I know Jennifer's actually going back to school. So yay to Jennifer for going back to school and building a business. It's a lot to take on. So luckily you won't have the toddlers running around taking up all your time and energy, which is a really common problem. No, I don't mean problem, but like a lot of my clients, one of their biggest frustrations and struggles is that they are having trouble building and growing their business because so much of their time is dedicated to their kids, and it's so hard for them to claim some time for themselves and their business and stuff like that. So, on one hand, we're lucky that we have the extra time and energy and that kind of thing. But again, it takes a village. It really does. It's like, in order for any of us to grow a business, we do have to support each other. We have to come together as a community. We have to promote each other. I mean, that's one of the reasons for this podcast is I wanted to promote Fiona. I wanted the world to know about her. I wanted to share her with my audience. Same thing with everyone who's, commenting, everyone who's in the Real to Ideal Superstars or in the Real to Ideal Revolution. It's like the more we promote each other, the more we make the world a better place, because we're all doing amazing things. And so I very much want to help my sisters out who do have kids by helping them grow their business. And then help all the women out there who don't have kids find a passion project, work with Fiona, or at least, download her PDFs and stuff like that, so that you can find a passion project that you can pour your love and nurturing energy into, and that kind of thing. Let's see here.
I'm starting to think that we need a new word again. Okay, we need a new word for businesses that are our passions. So, because business doesn't quite cut it, I may need to work on that. I'll get back to you.
I like it. Every year a new word from Fiona. I love it. All right, let's see here. So yeah, Jennifer agrees people should mind their own business. Questions about our bodies are too personal. I agree. Let's see here. So then, sorry, I'm catching up on the comments now. Erica says, "Sometimes I like to say, yes, I have children. It's very sad, though. They were born with 4 legs and lots of hair. Then I break out pictures of my doggies." Oh, my God.
That's fabulous. That's a Countess Drusilla comment there. That's fabulous.
Oh, I love it. I love it. And Jennifer says she also does love being an auntie, though. Yay. And so that's why the Valtie word works so well, is because so many women are aunties to the children that they weren't able to mother.
That's right. And the thing also about auntie is, I don't think it's just in our New Zealand culture, but the thing about aunties is you do not have to be related to a child in any way, shape or form to be called an auntie. That's the other bit that I liked about that auntie too. You can be an auntie to any child that crosses your path. I don't know, is it like that over there in your culture, or is that just a Kiwi thing?
In America, I think it's really regional, because there's going to be a lot of areas of the United States where if you try and and be an auntie to someone else's child that walks across your path. It's like, don't you be telling my kid what to do. Like, who are you to tell my kid anything? You know, like, you ain't the mom, kind of stuff. So there's definitely going to be some like fire if you get involved. And then other places, it's like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. My child was like, you know, I turned around for like a second and she was gone and I didn't know where she went. And thank you so much for scolding her when she did that, because she should know better. And, you know, so really it's regional. Yeah, especially with, as Jennifer says, with close friends and stuff like that. Definitely better. If you're just in the grocery store, be very, very careful.
It's probably a good point, Molly. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think it really comes down to how big of a city you live in. Because I noticed that in the cities, there's going to be a lot more defensiveness over how people raise their children, because people raise their children so differently. Whereas growing up in a small town like I did, it was very much accepted that like everybody pretty much had the same values. And there was kind of like an open door policy where, you know, if you didn't know where your kid was, it was fine. They were at someone's house, no big deal kind of thing. And so in that situation, it'd be like, oh yeah, go scold her all you want. She's a terror. All right. So I have some more questions, and some of these are more about your business, because I'm really intrigued. I mean, I've watched your business grow over the last few years, and I'm like, I think some of your experiences are going to be hugely helpful to the people watching. Let's see here. So now we have a little bit more of an idea of what your vision for the world is, which, you know, has to do with healing mental illness, healing depression, and empowering and supporting women without children, and also helping the, you know, like this goes for all the men in the world, for every conversation they have with a woman who may or may not have children. This goes for all the companies in the world who give maternity leave to the women who have children, but not to the women who don't have children. I mean, there's a lot of the society at large and business that needs to change to be, you know, like we're talking about equal pay for men and women. Well, the next step is going to be equal maternity leave for men and women without children and stuff like that. Like everybody deserves a sabbatical. Not obviously with maternity, you need it, you have to have it, but that, you know, I think personally that women without children and men should equally enjoy that right to like take time off to do something that's hugely personal. One of the reasons why I adore Patagonia as a business is because they give their employees paid time off, and it's huge. It's like 2 months or something like that, paid time off to go volunteer in some kind of like humanitarian or environmental or social responsible kind of way. So their employees, while on the clock, have like been tree sitters in the redwoods where they're like stopping the trees from being cut down by loggers. You know, they've gone to the Amazon to help with the rainforest and stuff. They've, you know, gone to other countries and like helped dug wells or build schools and all this kind of thing. And so to me, it's like, if you choose or you can't have children, whether you're a man or a woman, you should still have paid leave or you know, whatever the equivalent of maternity is in that company to go have a passion project like that. And so I think Patagonia is completely doing it right. I can't wait until I can afford to do that for my team. Be like, yeah, here's 2 months off and don't worry about money. It's going to be awesome. All right, let's see. So we have an idea of your vision. How does that vision show up in your businesses, even the one that isn't focused on Valties? Like, how have you seen integrating your vision and your why? How has that affected your success?
It's part of everything I do, is the first thing. I couldn't turn it off if I wanted to. My wordcasting business, I'm writing blog posts for other people. On a freelance basis, and you can just about guarantee at some stage, it doesn't matter what it is, there's a wee hint about some kind of wee trick for boosting mental health. There's a wee statement in there somewhere. It's not something I can separate anymore. How it's grown my business is by me talking about it, by me being blatantly honest. Like you're saying about Patagonia, you know, if you've got the choice between buying a product from Patagonia or buying a product from another company who doesn't offer that, you're going to go with Patagonia. That's what you're going to do. And that's why it needs to be because a lot of these companies too aren't as loud about what they're doing as they need to be. So people aren't aware. People aren't aware. And a company like Patagonia, a new company starting up, is going to say, okay, so I like what they're doing. We'll do that too. We'll do that right from day one. Okay? So that's kind of how my vision moves my business forward. It does because it's me, because it's part of me, because I can't separate it, because I talk about it, because this is why. This is why we need to do it. You can't say to people, you must do this, and not explain to them why. Because what like any child, you tell a child, don't do that, they're going to go and do it. You have to explain the why. And we've kind of got to this point where we're also politically correct. We can no longer voice opinions without offending somebody. I saw a comedian whose name I can't remember at the moment. He was doing a wee sketch about people being offended. He says, who cares if somebody's offended? What's going to happen? Nobody dies. There's an argument that maybe they do, but we'll leave that alone. But, you know, why can't we speak? Why can't we tell our stories? Why can't we tell our truth anymore? We've gone so far into the other place that we're not even talking to each other anymore. And this is wrong. This is so wrong.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. I think I know which comedian you're talking about. I don't know the name either, but I think I've heard the skit. How come I can't say that? Skit you've talked about. And he brings up a good point that it's like we've gotten so PC that now we can't even educate each other or have that conversation or open each other's minds. I mean, if you're so afraid to talk about, let's just say race, because that's like one of the biggest ones. If you're so afraid to talk about race, then you stop having those mind-opening conversations about race and you stay stuck in whatever it was you were programmed with as a child. So like, it's like, it's not PC to talk about race, but you were, let's say like your grandparents were extremely racist because that was their era. That's where they grew up. That's what they went through or whatever. You have some of that imprinting from your childhood and you never really get to grow out of it because you can't have that conversation because we're so afraid to offend people. We're so afraid to be labeled racist. We're so afraid for people to think that that's like what we think just because we're starting that conversation and stuff like that. I definitely went through that with when Trump was elected. I was afraid to say anything. So it was like, if I even if people knew what I thought, or if I even start this conversation, I'm going to be attacked. And like, honestly, I just don't even want to deal with all the comments that are going to come in. I don't want to, I just want to have a conversation. Like, can we have a dialogue instead of an attack fest and that kind of thing? So yeah, I completely agree. Hold on, let's see here. We got a couple comments and then more questions. Let's see. All right, let's see here. There we go. Jennifer says, yes, and we do have lives that take up our energy and time. No, we cannot cover for people with children.
We get tired as well. Just because we don't have children does not mean that we don't get tired. That one particularly frustrates the shit out of me. It really does. Oh, well, you can't be that tired. You haven't got up to a toddler at 2 o'clock in the morning. You can be just as tired. You can be just as tired. Yeah, so I hear you that one, Jennifer. Yeah, and we are often covering for people who do have children. Nobody covers for us.
Right. Okay, so then, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you, and
okay.
I can see the comments coming up as well.
Okay, good. So. Yeah, I'm getting some crazy audio interference, and I was testing out whether or not I could mute it out, but I can't. So I apologize to anyone that's listening to the audio. Yes, I can hear that, but I don't know what to do about it. Luckily, it's not so terrible we can't understand each other. So yeah, Erica says, get out. I didn't know that about Patagonia. It will definitely make paying their prices so much easier. Yes. Yeah, Patagonia, there's a ton of amazing things to learn about how Patagonia does business. Erica, I would be happy to have that conversation any day of the week. I'm just in love with everything about their business practices. All right, so speaking of business, I have 2 questions for you, Fiona. Let me check the time and just see how we're doing. Okay. So I have 2 questions. I'll just lay them both out for you, and you can choose which one to answer. How about when you started to narrow your niche, like when you first realized you had this passion to work with women without children, and you decided to narrow your niche. I mean, obviously, like your copywriting business isn't directed only at women without children. But when you thought you would show up with this business that was very much for women without children, it must have been kind of scary to narrow your audience so much. Did you ever feel like people wouldn't hire you if they knew this part of you?
I don't think that I felt that in particular. By the time I got to the point where I had narrowed my niche down, that I wanted to work specifically with women who are childless by circumstance and not by choice. By the time I got to that stage, it was just something I had to do. It didn't even feel like a choice. It was my purpose. I believe very strongly that we're all put on this earth for a reason. Okay? And one of the biggest things that I struggled with about my childlessness was, if I'm not meant to be a mother, then what am I here for? What am I doing? What's the point? And somebody made a comment to me once. He told me that he knows why I don't have children. And this was kind of earlier in the days when there was still a chance I could have. He said to me, I know why you don't have children. He says, if you had children, you would give all your love to them, and then the rest of us that need your love would miss out. And that has comforted me many a long, lonely night. It's one of the nicest, if not the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. So with that comment and with me trying to figure out why I was here, once I realised really, because it was a realisation more than a decision. Once I realised that was my purpose, it was no longer hard for me. It was no longer, do I have to do this? Do I have to do that? It was just, okay, this has got to be done. Bam, I'm off doing it. And part of that is because Molly, you went through this with me because I was part of that mastermind with you. And it was the support of you and the other woman in that group that also helped me. So I had those 2 things. My niche was narrowed down and I had the 2 things. I had the support of a bunch of women who know how hard this getting a business up and running is, the motivation, the day-to-day stuff. So I had a group behind me, not pushing me, it's not the word I want to cheering for me, I guess.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And I had and still have, the belief that this is what I am born to do. Okay? It just became easy. It just became easy. And when I say easy, I don't mean, because, the paperwork sucks. There's still the stuff to get it to do. It's not much fun. But it's just something that needs to be done. So I never really worried that. I probably worried a little bit more that the people, my friends and family, wouldn't understand what I'm trying to do. As it turns out, I do have some family members who don't understand what I'm trying to do. And I find I don't actually care. That's their problem. It's not mine. As long as they don't get in my way. If they get in my way, Countess Drusilla Steele will tell them where to go.
I love it.
I have this purpose. I have this thing that I need to do. So it's going to get done. One way or another, it will get done.
I love it. I love it. Let's see. We got one more comment coming in. Let's see if I can get it here. So Erica says, men and women can't communicate in a positive, constructive criticism dialogue anymore. It drives me crazy, and I am afraid to state my opinion on the male-female relationship because it's viewed as old school. Yeah, and that just goes back to, like, we need to be able to have the conversation. Like, even if it turns out I'm wrong, like maybe my viewpoints are old school or maybe they're old fashioned or whatever. Like, I at least want to be able to learn that, discover it through this conversation, and be able to change my mind.
That's right.
Like
other people's opinions and ideas are fascinating. Why do you think that? Explain that to me. I find that fascinating. Remember the days when you would sit and talk to somebody for hours on end? It just doesn't even seem to happen anymore.
Well, it's going to happen every single Thursday right here. We are going to have these conversations every single Thursday, because if I'm going to be the founder of the Real to Ideal movement for revolutionary leadership, then we need to be able to have these conversations. And again, it's like, I'm okay with being wrong, or I'm okay with you thinking I'm wrong. As long as we're having the dialogue, I have an opportunity to learn better and do better. Because that's pretty much my motto, is when you know better, you do better. And so by sharing our opinions with each other, then I can say, you know what? I like your version better than my version. I'm going to change how I think now. You know, I love being able to do that. And I mean, that's what makes us human, right? I mean, I guess there are other animals on the planet that do that too, but nobody does it the way human minds do it. The way that human brains make connections and can rewire is just incredible. And we can't do that without differing opinions and coming together. Yeah, Erica says, yay! So good. Yay, we're on the same page. All right, so then my next question, this is actually the second part of the question I was going to ask you, is that when I first met you many years ago, Fiona, your profile pic was not a photo of you. It was a drawing of vampire fangs, which I thought was so cool. I was like, it spoke to my comic book nerdiness and my love of vampires and Buffy the Vampire Slayer and everything else. So I knew that you and I were going to be friends someday. But at that time, if I were to scour the internet, I don't think I could have found a photo of you. And there was no way to know what you looked like or sounded like. At the time, I didn't even realize you were in New Zealand until, let's see here. I think it was during the Real to Ideal Mastermind was the first time I ever actually saw you and heard your voice. But now, I mean, just today alone, you're doing this hour-long live video, and you did a live webinar for the summit. You'll have to remind me what the name of that summit was.
The We Are Worthy Summit for women who are childless, not by choice. It's happening this week.
So 2 live videos in one day, and your blog posts recently have had some very honest photos of you in, you know, the stretchy yoga pants and whatnot, you know, talking about your health, talking about your journey. And so you're very, very much visible. You're very much owning your image, owning your power as a woman, owning your personality and your voice and everything. How on earth did you step out of your shell that much and become so visible online? And just, it's really in the last year, especially.
I give 98%, if not more, credit for that to you and that mastermind. I really do. Because when I started that mastermind, I had a business. My aim was to make money so that I could have time to write my books. Okay? And it became very apparent after working through the exercises that we did in that group, it became apparent quite quickly that, you know, this isn't going to work. I can plod along for a certain amount of time, but because I don't care about it that much, it's not ever going to be a success. So that was kind of at the same time where I accepted my childless and went through all of that. But what really allowed me to come out of myself was the support of the women in that group. It really absolutely was. Some of those calls that we would have, you know, some of us would be in tears at different times because we could be brutally honest with ourselves, with each other. But there was always a sense of we were there to grow a business. So anything we said or did was about growing that business. Now, for businesses that we have, where we want to change the world, where they are our passion, they are in a lot of ways our children, you can't separate yourself from it. You can certainly be private about certain issues because everybody has a private life. although if you ask a celebrity, they might disagree, but everybody should have a private life. So it's not that you're spilling all your secrets. It's about sharing who you are and sharing what you believe in. And you can't do that unless you feel safe and supported. So that's the big thing. That's really why it has made along that journey, and I'm not sure which has fed more, because my own personal spirituality and my own physical and mental health has moved along the journey kind of parallel to my business growing. And I don't know, I think they've both fed each other in that way. So I'm at a point now where, I don't care. I do not care what you think of me. I really don't. But listen to what I'm saying. This is important. Okay? And there's a huge amount of freedom in that. And being able to say, no, this is the issue. This is what we're talking about. But in answer to your question, that mastermind group, the support of the other women, you're talking about villages raising children. You can't do it on your own. You absolutely cannot do it on your own. You need that support.
Yep. Yeah. So, I mean, whether or not you join the Real to Ideal Mastermind, go find that support group in whatever form it takes. Like, if you don't have the money to buy into something, absolutely form one with your, I wouldn't say your friends unless they're also business owners, but find other business owners that you can collaborate with. Get on camera with them every week and talk to them and boost each other. And I agree. I think the calls where the tears came out were some of the most powerful, because that's when the breakthroughs happen. It's like, you don't break down and not you personally, but I'm saying a person does not break down in tears on a call and not move forward. And not be a changed person at the end of that call. And of course, having everyone there say, like, I understand what you're feeling right now. I know what it's like to feel that crushed or that affected or that triggered or whatever it may be. Like, I hear you, I see you, and I still support you. I still want to see past the tears, like, to keep having this conversation until the tears shift into something else. Like, we're not going to just leave this call with this as the ending or whatever. Like, 'cause I know there's been some calls where like the tears happen right at the last 15 minutes. And it's like, you know what? I have nowhere to be. We're going to stay here if that's what it takes, because it's transformational. And so if you have the money, you can invest in some really amazing, powerful masterminds that have step-by-step processes that they can take you through, where you will learn how to do things in your business. You will take these steps one step at a time. You will transform your business. And so that's the power of investing, is you'll be going through a step-by-step process that somebody has created. But if you can't afford that, by all means, get together with other people and create what you, because I agree, it's powerful.
Yeah, and the other thing that struck me too about that particular mastermind and the ones I've been involved with since is that many of those women, if not all, were women that I wouldn't have come into contact with in any other way. Molly and I think, have similar interests. But even then, I've certainly never been a mechanic. But that's another beauty of the mastermind too, is I think you find yourself involved with people who are cheering you on, who are rooting for you, who think what you do matters. But they're not somebody you would have talked to normally. They just would not have entered your sphere. So there's a different kind of thought process that comes with that, and a different kind of influence, and it widens your horizons again. It's also very, very important. It's all about talking to each other. It's always all about talking to each other.
What continues to blow my mind about the first time we went through that mastermind together was that here's a group of women that on the surface appear to have nothing in common. I mean, like you said, like, I'm a mechanic with a background in journalism. You're an author who specializes in vampire books, and one of the other gals was a woman who wanted to turn her acreage into farmland that she could grow organic food on and bring kids onto the space to learn how to grow their own food and make their own lunches, right? On the surface, nothing in common except that we all found each other and were part of this mastermind. But then as we go on, we find out that everyone in the group is a huge fan of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And the woman who seemed on the surface the most normal named her children after characters from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So it's like, wait, how on earth? It's like we all had something really deeply in common. And it was the thing that you would never have guessed.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
Never would have known that it was like the vampire connection was the common theme and everything like that. So anyway, that continues to blow my mind to this day. It's like you really can't judge a book by its cover. You would just not believe what some people have as far as backgrounds and experiences and other things. Erica says, I am so grateful to have met both of you. Yay, we're so happy to have met you too, Erica. And I don't know, unless you were in the Real to Ideal Revolution within like the last hour, Erica has just joined the revolution. And so Fiona, she's in there. We can all have this conversation. We can continue this conversation in the Real to Ideal Revolution after this call. And let's see here. I believe we are coming up at the end of our hour. So Fiona, any last thoughts or last messages that you want to share with the audience? Anything that you think would help them on their journeys?
I think if I could say anything I kind of feel that we've been talking to maybe two different groups, but obviously there's some overlaps. So as far as, other businesswomen who are trying to build their business, no matter what that business is, the main thing I would say is find yourself, constantly hearing, find your tribe. I'll find a better phrase for that, don't you worry. But you need that support. You need that group. You need that backbone behind you. Okay? Everything else will be so much easier when you have got that support. And that support will come from anywhere. I'm across the other side of the world from Molly. I'm in New Zealand, tiny little country. Okay. As far as childless women go, you need to remember, because a lot of the stigma and discrimination that we have against childless women at the moment, a lot of it comes from ourselves. We need to remember that we do matter, that we are important, that we do have a lot of wisdom that the world needs to hear. It needs to hear it. Look at the statement. We have a particular set of skills that other people just haven't been able to develop because they've been busy doing other things. Whereas we've developed those skills without even realising we were doing it. And we need to teach that to others. And we need to be happy.
Yes.
You need to not try and get over it, not try and move past it, or none of those other trite phrases that people trot out at you. You don't. Your pain of your childlessness is part of you. It's seeped into your skin. It's part of who you are. Use it. Don't get buried under it. Use it and turn it into something that fires you up. Because if it fires you up, it'll fire somebody else up as well. So that's my main things, I guess. Oh, are you there, Molly? You seem to have disappeared. Where have you gone, Molly?
Owner developing a business, or women without children who are trying to, work through your grief and your pain and everything else, but definitely applies to both groups, is that, don't try to be someone else. Don't try to fit into someone else's mold. Don't try to fit into some other box. Own who you are, own that pain, own the transformation, own the things that you've been through, and show up as her, because that's what's going to be your success in life, whether it's in life as a woman without children or as a woman in business. Totally. Like, I couldn't even put it better. Like, you said it perfectly. I think I'm going to pull that as the quote from this from this hour together. That's going to be the powerful quote, because that really speaks to every woman on earth.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's exciting. It's exciting because if you bring yourself forward and be who you are, you don't know who that's going to attract. You don't know what's going to happen next. It could be the most amazing thing in the world.
Right.
It's exciting.
So thank you so much for everyone. Oh, yes, Jennifer is still here too. Sorry, Jennifer. Jennifer's also in the Real to Ideal Revolution. We can continue this conversation over there. Thank you so much, everyone who joined us live. Definitely thank you, Jennifer and Erica, for being here live and being part of this conversation. Thanks to everyone watching or listening to the replay. Super grateful to have you here listening to this. And you can join us live every single Thursday on the Real to Ideal Facebook page. That's where the live video takes place. You can catch the replay on YouTube or any of your favorite podcasting services, because as soon as I get this uploaded, it is going to be available on Google Play and iTunes and on the realtoideal.com/podcast page as well. Thank you so much, Fiona, for an incredibly interesting conversation. Always a treat to talk to you.
Thank you for having me, Molly. I have enjoyed it. Can't believe that. I've enjoyed it.
You've enjoyed it, and this is your second long live conversation of the day, and this coming from someone who used to not even show up visibly online a year ago. So that's saying a lot. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone. See you next Thursday.
Bye.